Good morning, everyone. I want to begin by telling you something simple but powerful. God sees your struggle. He knows you're tired. Maybe you've been fighting a quiet battle. You smile on the outside, but inside you feel worn out, stretched thin, even invisible at times. You're doing your best to keep going, taking care of your family, showing up at work, staying faithful, but the weight feels heavy and the progress feels slow. Even when life feels overwhelming and your efforts seem to go unnoticed, one truth remains constant. God sees you. He sees your struggle. He sees what others don't. In the middle of your busiest, most exhausting days, when you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, God is not distant. He's not unaware or disinterested. He is near, attentive, and fully aware of everything you're going through. Sometimes it can feel like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, like you're doing all the right things but getting none of the result. You're showing up, you're trying your best, you're sacrificing, you're staying faithful, but there's still resistance, still hardship, still waiting. That can be incredibly discouraging, especially when it seems like no one recognizes the effort you're putting in, but God does. In the book of Genesis, there's a moment where Hagar, a servant woman who felt rejected, abandoned, and alone in the wilderness, has an encounter with God. In that moment, she calls him El Roi, which means the God who sees me. That one phrase speaks volumes. She wasn't royal, she wasn't a prophet, she wasn't well known or powerful. She was someone most people would overlook, yet God met her exactly where she was, in her brokenness and exhaustion, and reminded her that she was seen and loved. That same God sees you. He knows how hard you're trying to hold everything together. He sees you waking up early to provide for your family, pouring out your energy at work, praying late into the night, battling anxiety that no one else knows about. He knows the toll it's taking on your heart and mind. And in the moments when you feel invisible, overlooked, or unappreciated, God is whispering, I see you. I haven't forgotten you. You may not have the words to explain what you're going through to anyone else. You may not even fully understand it yourself, but God understands. He doesn't just see what you're going through on the outside. He sees the weight of what you're carrying on the inside. He sees your heartbreak, your weariness, your quiet strength. He sees the pain you're hiding behind the smile. He sees the sacrifices you've made that no one claps for. And not only does he see it, he cares. He's not a distant observer. He is a loving father who leans in close to his children, who collects every tear, who walks beside you through the valley, and who promises to never leave you or forsake you. It's easy to feel forgotten when life doesn't go the way you hoped. Maybe the promotion didn't come, the healing hasn't arrived, the relationship didn't work out, and you start to wonder, does God even notice what I'm going through? But the truth is, his silence is not absent. His delay is not denial. He is watching, he is working, and he is present. In Psalm 34:15 it says, the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. That means not a single sigh escapes your lips without God hearing it. Not a single act of faithfulness goes unnoticed. Even the prayers you whispered through tears, God heard every word. There is something profoundly comforting in knowing that you are seen by God. In a world that celebrates the loud, the flashy, and the popular, it's easy to feel like you don't measure up, especially when your life doesn't look like someone else's highlight reel. But God isn't measuring your value by how much attention you get or how fast your life is moving forward. He sees the hidden things. He sees the quiet faith, the daily obedience, the perseverance in the face of hardship, and he honors it. So when you feel like giving up, when the burden feels too heavy and the loneliness too deep, remember, you are not invisible. You are not forgotten. The God of the universe sees you, and he doesn't just see your struggle. He's walking through it with you. He's strengthening you, sustaining you, and preparing you for what's next. You may not be able to see the way forward yet, but the one who sees you is also the one who leads you, and that is more than enough. Feeling tired does not mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you lack faith, that you're failing, or that something is wrong with you. It means you're human. It means you've been carrying something heavy, pushing through challenges, standing strong for others, and giving all you have, sometimes more than you had to give. There's a common misconception that being strong in faith means never feeling weary, but that's not true. Even the strongest people get tired. Even the most faithful believers feel exhausted. And even Jesus, the Son of God, experienced fatigue. In John 4:6, we read that Jesus, tired from his journey, sat down by the well. If Jesus himself grew weary, why would we expect ourselves to never feel the same? The truth is, life can be draining. It can wear you down emotionally, mentally, physically, and you might be juggling responsibilities, facing ongoing trials, dealing with disappointment, or simply trying to make it through the day without falling apart. And in the midst of it all, it can be easy to start judging yourself for being tired. You may tell yourself you should be stronger, happier, or more energetic. But God never asked you to be a machine. He never told you that exhaustion was a sign of failure. In fact, the Bible is full of reminders that God is close to the weary, that he gives strength to the tired, and that he understands our limits. Psalm 103:14 says, "For he knows how we are formed. He remembers that we are dust." God created you. He knows you inside and out. He knows how much you can handle, and he's not surprised by your weariness. When you're tired, he's not disappointed in you. He's compassionate toward you. He invites you to come to him, not just when you're strong, but especially when you're weak. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Notice he didn't say, "Come to me once you've got it all together." He said, "Come as you are, tired, burdened, worn out," and he promises rest. That rest isn't just physical, it's spiritual and emotional too. God offers a kind of peace that reaches into the deepest parts of your being. He's not just interested in helping you survive another day. He wants to refresh your soul. Being tired isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you need renewal. And renewal doesn't happen through self-effort alone. It happens through connection with God. When you lean into him, when you allow yourself to pause and receive from him, he fills the places that have been drained by the demands of life. There's also strength in acknowledging your tiredness. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that you're not okay, that you need help, that you need a moment to breathe. That kind of honesty opens the door for healing. It gives God space to work. The world often teaches us to keep pushing, to keep grinding, to never slow down. But God works on a different rhythm. He's not in a hurry. He's not measuring your worth by your productivity. He values your heart, your well-being, your relationship with him. And sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop, rest, and let God take care of you. Tiredness is not a reflection of weak character or weak faith. In fact, it can be a sign of great strength. It means you've kept going when others would have quit. It means you've been fighting battles, showing up, staying faithful, even when it hurt. And that kind of resilience is not weakness. It's courage. But even the courageous need moments of rest. Even warriors need time to recover. Even people of great faith need to be refreshed. That's why God gave us the gift of rest. That's why he built it into the rhythm of creation. On the seventh day, God himself rested, not because he was tired, but because he was setting a pattern for us to follow. So when you find yourself exhausted, don't be ashamed. Don't see it as a spiritual shortcoming. Instead, see it as a signal to slow down, to reconnect with God, to be gentle with yourself, and to remember that your strength doesn't come from striving. It comes from him. He is your refuge, your source, your ever-present help. He's not asking you to carry everything alone. He's asking you to bring your weariness to him so he can lift you up, hold you close, and renew your strength like the morning sun rising after a long dark night. There comes a point in every person's journey where their own strength just isn't enough. You may have been standing in faith, working hard, doing everything you know how to do, and still feel like you're barely holding on. The truth is, human strength has limits. There's only so much you can carry, only so far you can go on your own. But the beautiful thing is, God never intended for you to walk this life in your own strength. He is not watching from a distance, waiting for you to prove yourself. He is near, and his strength begins exactly where yours ends. It's easy to think you have to do it all, to feel the pressure of being strong for everyone else, of never showing weakness, of keeping everything together. But God isn't asking you to be your own savior. He knows your limits. He knows that even when your heart is full of faith, your body and mind can grow weary. That's why he offers you something supernatural. His strength in exchange for your weakness. In Isaiah 40:29, the Bible says he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. That verse isn't poetic language, it's a promise. It tells us that God is not just aware of our weakness, he responds to it. He steps in when we are empty. He pours out his strength when we have nothing left to give. The moment you admit, I can't do this on my own, you're not failing. You're inviting God to do what only He can do. You're creating space for Him to show up in power. You're letting go of the burden to be self-sufficient and receiving the grace to be God-dependent. Paul, one of the strongest and most faithful leaders in the Bible, understood this well. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, he wrote about a time when he pleaded with God to remove a difficulty from his life. God's response was, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul didn't just accept that answer, he embraced it. He went on to say, "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." That's a radical shift in thinking. In the world's eyes, strength means having it all together, never struggling, never needing help. But in God's kingdom, strength often looks like surrender. It looks like dropping to your knees and saying, "Lord, It looks like admitting that you're tired, overwhelmed, and unsure, and trusting that God's presence is enough. His power isn't diminished by your weakness. In fact, His power shines brightest in your weakest moments. When you reach your limit, God is not disappointed. He's ready to lift you up, to carry what you can't, to provide what you lack. He's not asking you to be more capable. He's asking you to be more connected to Him. Your ability to endure, to overcome, to thrive doesn't come from your own strength. It comes from the God who lives in you. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength." That means you don't have to manufacture strength. You receive it. You don't have to pretend to be strong. You just have to stay close to the one who. God's strength is not just for the big moments of crisis. It's for the daily grind. It's for the mornings when you don't want to get out of bed. It's for the conversations that drain you, the responsibilities that feel too heavy, the seasons that stretch on longer than expected. It's for the silent battles you fight, the fears you don't talk about, the disappointments that weigh on your heart. His strength meets you in those hidden places. It fills in the gaps. It sustains you when your own energy fails. And God's strength doesn't just help you survive, it helps you overcome. It empowers you to keep believing, keep moving, and keep growing, even in the face of adversity. It lifts you out of despair and reminds you that you're not alone. It gives you courage when fear tries to paralyze you. It anchors you when everything around you feels unstable. When your strength ends, that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of a greater work. Because God's power doesn't run out, His supply doesn't run dry. And when you lean on Him, you'll find a source of strength that will carry you farther than you ever thought possible. What you're going through right now might feel endless. The struggle, the delay, the setbacks, they can make it seem like life is standing still, like you're stuck in a season that refuses to change. You might be praying, working, believing, but still wondering why the door hasn't opened, why the breakthrough hasn't come, or why things seem harder than they used to be. But just because you don't see movement doesn't mean nothing has happened. Just because the outside hasn't changed doesn't mean something powerful isn't taking place within you. You are not stuck, you are being strengthened. God doesn't waste seasons. He doesn't leave you in the wilderness without a reason. Every delay, every moment of uncertainty, every painful stretch is doing something in you. It's building perseverance. It's deepening your faith. It's preparing you for the next stage of your journey. Sometimes we think strength is built in moments of victory, but real strength is built in the silence, in the struggle, in the waiting. It's in those moments when you keep showing up even though you don't feel like it. When you keep praying even though the answers haven't come. When you keep trusting even though you don't see the outcome. That's when your roots are growing deep. That's when your foundation is being set. There's a story in the Old Testament about Joseph. He had dreams of greatness, of being used by God in a powerful way. But before he ever saw those dreams fulfilled, he went through betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and years in prison. For more than a decade, it looked like nothing was happening. In fact, it looked like everything was going wrong. But all that time, God was not punishing Joseph. He was preparing him. He was strengthening Joseph's character, teaching him wisdom, shaping his heart, and aligning the right people and circumstances for the future. When the time was right, Joseph went from a prison to a palace in a single day. What looked like a long delay was actually a divine set. The same is true in your life. You might feel overlooked, stuck in place, waiting for something to shift. But God is working behind the scenes. He's refining your character, sharpening your discernment, and building endurance. Because when you finally step into the new level, the blessing, the opportunity, you'll need the strength that this current season is giving you. If you received everything you prayed for without preparation, you might not be able to carry it. The wait is part of the blessing. The struggle is part of the story. And the strength you're gaining now will sustain you later. Sometimes we confuse stillness with stagnation. But there's a difference between being still and being stuck. God often does his greatest work in the still places, when nothing seems to be happening on the surface. Think about a seed buried in the ground. From the outside it looks like nothing is going on. But under the soil, a transformation is taking place. The roots are growing. The foundation is forming. Eventually that seed will break through the surface. But it cannot grow upward until it first grows downward. And so it is with you. You may not be where you want to be yet, but that doesn't mean you're not growing. In fact, this might be the season where the most growth is taking place. It's just happening in the unseen. When we try to rush through seasons of struggle, we often miss what God is trying to do in us. He's not just focused on changing your circumstances. He's focused on changing you. He wants to make you stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more dependent on him. What feels like a delay is actually a divine appointment. God is never late, never unprepared, and never random. Everything he allows has a purpose, even when that purpose isn't immediately clear. You're not just waiting, you're being prepared. You're not just surviving, you're being strengthened. You're not stuck, you're in the middle of a transformation. And the strength that's being formed in you now will not only carry you through this season, but will also equip you for everything that's coming next. You may not be able to see the finish line yet, but God is still writing your story. In this chapter, this stretching, uncomfortable chapter, is building something beautiful within you. There are moments in life when it feels like you've come to the end of the road. You've prayed the prayers, cried the tears, fought the battles, and yet nothing seems to be changing. It's easy to believe that breakthrough is far off, or maybe not coming at all. But the truth is, your breakthrough is often closer than you think. God is always at work, even when you don't see the evidence. He is not ignoring your prayers, or delaying for no reason. He is preparing the right moment, aligning the right pieces, and developing the right strength in you for what's ahead. Many times people give up just before something begins to shift. It's in those final stages of struggle, when everything feels the hardest, that the breakthrough is often just around the corner. Think of a woman in labor. The final moments before birth are the most intense, the most painful, and the most exhausting. But it's also the point at which new life is closest. That pain, that pressure, is actually a sign that something new is about to come. In the same way, the increased struggle you may be feeling is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It's a sign that something is about to break open. In the book of Joshua, when the Israelites were marching around the walls of Jericho, God told them to walk around the city once a day for 6 days, and then 7 times on the 7th day. Can you imagine what that must have felt like on day 5 or 6? Walking in circles, seeing no cracks in the wall, no signs of progress, just the same routine, the same hope, the same unanswered questions. But what they didn't know was that the walls were about to fall. The 7th day was coming. The breakthrough was closer than it looked. If they had stopped walking on the 6th day because they saw no results, they would have missed the miracle on the 7th. God is always moving in the unseen. While you are waiting, he is working. While you are praying, he is prepared. Sometimes he works in quiet ways, rearranging circumstances, softening hearts, orchestrating divine appointments. You may not see it happening, but that doesn't mean it's not real. Your prayers have not been wasted. Your obedience has not gone unnoticed. Your tears have not been ignored. In fact, Psalm 56:8 tells us that God keeps every tear in a bottle, proof that he treasures every moment you've endured in faith. There's a spiritual principle that God often works suddenly after a season of preparation. All throughout Scripture, we see examples of long seasons of waiting, followed by sudden dramatic moves of God. Joseph waited in prison for years, then was suddenly brought before Pharaoh and elevated to a position of power. Paul was in obscurity for a long time before his ministry launched into full purpose. Even Jesus, though fully God, lived in quiet preparation for 30 years before his public ministry began. The waiting is never wasted. It's producing something eternal in you. And when God moves, he can shift your entire situation in a single moment.
That's why you can't give up now. The enemy would love nothing more than to convince you that it's over, that nothing will change, that your prayers don't matter. But the truth is, you may be one conversation away, one opportunity away, one act of obedience away from the shift you've been waiting for. You're closer than you feel. God is not finished. The delay you see is not a denial, it's development. And in due time, the breakthrough will come, and it will be undeniable that God's hand was in every step. There's something powerful about staying faithful when it would be easier to quit. There's strength in continuing to believe when everything in you wants to let go. That kind of faith is what moves mountains. It doesn't mean you're never afraid or discouraged. It means you keep going despite the fear and discouragement. And God honors that kind of Galatians 6:9 reminds us, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest. If we do not give up, the harvest is real. The breakthrough is coming. You may not feel it yet, but it's closer than it seems. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing, because just on the other side of your persistence is the promise. One of the most comforting truths in life is that God does not just see your struggle, He walks with you through.